Well, we all know that Xi Jinping will be reappointed by a narrow majority of 2,300 votes to 0, so he's likely to have his authority reaffirmed. Furthermore, he's likely to be redesignated again with a new title, perhaps as the navigator of China, perhaps as the chairman of the party, perhaps as some other new honorific like the leader of the people. But what does all this mean? It's simply that his personal power is re-entrenched and added to. Secondly, for those reasons, normally our preoccupation with other personnel appointments, the other members of the Politburo, it doesn't matter as much because there's one appointment that really matters, and that is Xi Jinping himself. All roads lead to the Xi office, and that's where policy is done. So finally, what we need to look for is the ideological and policy content of the work report he'll deliver to the Congress. Will there be a change in the economic direction of the country, which has been going increasingly left in recent times? And will there be a new ideological statement about China's assessment of the international environment? In other words, will they begin to place China on a war footing for the future? The central challenge is the economy. The economic model of Deng Xiaoping of 1982 to 2017 is over. The period of reform and opening, 改革开放, is now frankly closing. And we have a new, different ideological model for the economy under Xi Jinping. More state control, less freedom for the private sector, greater reliance on industrial policy, greater reliance on national planning, greater reliance on other factors concerning party control. But the problem is that slows economic growth because the private sector, which represents 61% of GDP, has a problem with its confidence in this economic direction. His challenge, therefore, is to restore growth without a fully participating private sector. And that is very difficult. And if he fails to do that, then our long-term assumptions about China being 2 times or 3 times the size of the United States by mid-century, or a China which represents a market for everybody, for everything, begins to come into question. And there is a new debate, un grand débat, about this question. Are we reaching peak China? And that is what we'll be looking at very carefully coming out of this Congress. I think our central challenge to preserve peace between China and the United States is to work with the Americans primarily on deterring China from considering a military action against Taiwan in the early 2030s. I do not believe that the Chinese or the Americans want a war in the 2020s because the balance of power is too close and each side is not confident it would win. So for the 2020s, it's reducing the risk of war by accident, and that is what the US and the Chinese must do between themselves. And that's why I talk about the need for managed strategic competition in the book I've just written on the avoidable war. But when we get to the 2030s and Xi Jinping's calculus for his own timetable to bring Taiwan back under Chinese sovereignty by force, we have 6 or 7 years between all of us to rebuild military, financial and economic deterrence so that China concludes in the 2030s it's still too risky to do it. That, I think, is the central challenge.